I'll say something. It'll come back in a minute.
Come.
But you went camping, didn't you, yourself? Not in a camper.
I did go, very, very basic tent and wood camping. My dad's we're very fortunate. He's got access to quite a bit of land, like about, I think it's 14 acres worth of just forest.
Nice.
So I just walked out into the middle of it and found a nice spot, started a big fire and set up a tent. And just switched off for 24 hours and just got back to some basics. It was good. I don't know what you're similar into this idea, so you understand that it grounds you in some way that's very hard to explain. But there's something about cooking on flames and sleeping a bit rough and being away from technology. I mean, away from electricity in its entirety, the waves and the frequencies. It's just different.
I've been on that journey for quite some time now. I think even before we had Cece, so probably like 17 years, something 20 years now. I found that I didn't go ever camping as a kid. Our holidays were either staying somewhere in Cornwall, as in a house, or flying somewhere. I never did camping there once as a kid. I used to play outdoors, used to go out on my bikes. I wasn't scared of mud and worms, but it wasn't my I'll go-to thing, because I know some families have always camped, haven't they? Yeah. And it was Lauren's. Lauren inherited a little bit of money from one of her family's side, and we went and bought a load of camping gear, and we went camping, and I just fell in love with it then, and I got into the bushcraft, and then obviously the camper kind of ties in with all of that as well. And I think we've got undeniable programming in us. Like, if you look at the time scale that we've had electricity, just say the comfort of electricity, and the time scale as human beings that we haven't, it's like minute, isn't it? So the amount of time that we have survived without it far exceeds with it. And I think there's some kind of in-programming thing in us that, well, for me anyway, when I go camping, I just feel at one, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went with my sisters, so we went with all my sisters and their partners, and bless them, they're very much city folk. So they like their creature comforts. They're not used to camping. They don't really know about starting a fire and pitching a tent or anything like this. But it takes a little while for them. Like for me, the second I'm there, I switch flips and I'm in a different frame of mind. For them, it took a few hours to kind of disconnect and kind of get through where do I go toilet? What do I do with this? How do I handle that? But then by the end of the evening, by the time we were like all just sat around the fire, there was just this different energy in the space. It was really good, really needed. And it's just, I only get mad at myself that I don't do it more often, because every time I go, I'm like, I should do this more often. But yeah, it's finding the time, finding the space. But
I saw a good documentary on camping a little while back, actually.
Yeah.
And I can't quote the dates exactly, but camping doesn't go back that far. We're talking to like even the 40s or 50s, something like that. So, man has lived in caves forever, but this whole tent camping thing doesn't go back that far as a recreational thing, and it was actually only a very wealthy thing to do. The city folk, your guys who worked in the city or lived in the city, would go for a camping weekend and would have a tent and would have these kind of things. Your workers couldn't afford to go camping. They couldn't afford a day off work. They worked 6 days a week and 1 day of rest to then be able to work the next 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that really interesting to start with. And then I can't remember how it happened, but it was something to do with the cost of, like, everyone, it was something to do with the cost of it. People started to do it more, it became more accessible. Then all the cheap airlines started coming out, so people could easily fly to France, Spain, all of these hot countries, climates and that, and it killed camping. And then I think in the early thousands or the late 90s, it might even be the early thousands, it had a I can't say the word, renaissance, is that the word, where it comes around again?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and it had
Resurgence.
it had a rebirth, and people now, it's a common thing because it's also cost effective. It's not a budget holiday, but it's a way that you can, you know, go away at a reasonable cost, and it's come back again. Now, yeah, it was just really interesting documentary on this story of
Yeah.
camping.
You don't think of it like that, do you? Because now you do think of it as not a poor man's holiday, but like you said, it's not, it is inexpensive. You can pick up a tent now, 50, 60 quid. And that's, you know, that's like a hotel basically now for a few days. It doesn't take a lot to get the basic camping gear.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't think of it as a rich man, but I guess, yeah, especially back then, I think materials must have been a big thing because
Yeah, massively.
plastics and stuff like that. And now, you know, stuff like carbon fiber or lightweight metals for frames and everything, all of that stuff must have been crazy expensive back when it was first cropping up.
Well, my grandparents, they used to go to Cornwall when people used to think it was another country. So they used to be like, oh, we're going to Cornwall. And someone would say to them, oh, where's that? Is that another country? Because people never travelled that kind of far a distance. And when they first went, they used to go with a motorbike and sidecar. So it'd be my nan, my granddad on the motorbike, and my dad and the dog and the tent in the sidecar. And it used to be a 2-day journey, a 2-day drive. They had to stop at a farmer's field to pitch up tent, or you know, on halfway down. And yeah, just that's when time zones were different in this country. You had a different time zone in Cornwall to here. It wasn't until the railway brought it all in together.
It's crazy to think that's not even that long ago. I mean, like you said, that's a grandparent's lifetime ago. It's not,
my dad,
not anything.
one generation, my dad. So yeah, mad. I remember what it was I was going to say actually about and I had that blank. You know, you were saying about the time, not having the time to do things like rebuild an engine, etc. What came to mind is it's the value of what you give something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like for instance, I value my time in a sense of if there's a job that can be done by someone else or it can be done better. Just take admin, for instance. I give it to someone else because it's a job that doesn't require my skill set. It requires someone else's skill set, or it's a job that can just be done by anyone. So I don't put, that seems to me now a waste of time because I have a limited time. We all do, but for instance, paying someone to work to do the camper, I'd have to work to get the money to pay someone to do the camper, and they're going to pay, you're going to be paying tenfold probably to have the work done that you would do, and that's how I value it.
Yes,
as well as the pride and everything else.
Way to value it, I feel. Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's a hard thing for people to come to terms with that you delegation. I think is one of the most difficult but useful things people can learn and become good at, the ability to give things up that they serve you, but they won't serve you if they are added on and added on and added on. At some point, you need to give things away to create space for bigger things, to let you have room for the bigger project and to do the bigger stuff in mind.
Yeah, for sure.